I want to be at home. None of those things take precedent over my family life and my future wife and my daughter. So I need to be able to balance those, and that's where the steady income comes in. So I was just like, where do I really start?
What's up, Phil? I'm excited to have you here. So what can I do for you today, man?
Thank you for having me again. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I guess, a number of questions about, I know I'd been checking out your stuff and some of your courses, and I was really thinking about pursuing the game composer route. I have a number of things that I do musically, but at the same time, I want to be able to make, some sort of reliable, steady income. And, as a musician, that's the challenge
Yeah.
overall. But it seems like from everything I've been watching and reading from you, that you seem to have at least a solid pathway kind of figured out in terms of how to go from A to Z. And for me, that's always key. Like if I can map out my success, as I like to say, then, and just for me, because especially as I've kind of been making some bigger transitions, I'm getting married in a month. And so I want to be able to, thank you. I want to be able to have something in place in order to do that. So I know I'd thrown a bunch of questions at you. I guess the big thing for me is like, so if I started down the path that you've kind of been, or that you've been talking about so prevalently over the last, year, especially, what can you realistically kind of expect to start making, like say after 6 months to a year, the 3 to 5 years? And I know you had said something about just, realistic, and that to me seems realistic, but what can I actually, do you think, achieve, and how would I, loosely map that out? I know you have the course and everything, so.
Thankfully, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds and probably thousands of composers at this point over the last, 6-7 years teaching and doing YouTube and podcasting. So I've found that there is an average, like you mentioned, it's usually about 3 to 5 years that it takes someone to make that full transition from part-time to full-time. Now, of course, what are the numbers there? That's what you're really asking for. And it really depends on how hard you're going to go after it. Depends on how many hours you're going to be putting aside while you're doing what you're currently doing to sustain your income. And it depends on how many passive income sources you're putting out there, like products versus services. So a rule I like to live by is the 80-20 principle, which means that you spend 20% of your time to get 80% of the results. Now, starting off, you don't really have any income generating products. So that's what I focus on. That's what I did. And that has really, really helped pave the way for me, because once I was able to hit the monthly income amount that my family needed, which was something around $4,000 per month, with products that I know that is a reliable income amount. That's like the worst month income will be coming in from courses, books, music packs, licensing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's about 15 different things, and it just keeps growing every single month. It's amazing. That's the product side. And so once I was able to hit that threshold, then it really freed me up to be a little bit more risky and to step into territories that I never thought I would, and maybe spend a little bit more time in the networking field of just spending time investing in people, because I'm not having to trade my time for dollars. And that has really paid off big time with larger game projects and larger film projects and whatever. And just over time, it's built, and notice how I say over time. And I actually just had a conversation, I forgot with who, but it was another audience member who asked the question about, what's the fastest way? And actually there's a video that just released today. If you want to go check it out, it was a conversation I had with Brian Schmidt. It's definitely someone you want to listen to. He's a game industry legend, and he's exclusively been a game composer his entire career of 30 years plus. And he has a lot to say on this idea of speed. And it's not the answer we want to hear at the beginning, but it's the truth. It's the truth. It takes time to build a career. And I think it's important to control what you can control, which is the product side, because you really can't control the service side. There's a lot you can do to position yourself to attract clients, which is what I talk about so much. And that's through content marketing. That's through putting out valuable things, being in the right place at the right time and having conversations. But that side ultimately has an element of luck about it, which is be prepared for the opportunity when the opportunity strikes. But there's really no way of promising that, oh, I'm going to get 3 gigs this month. It's not exactly, predictable. And especially during this crazy season of the pandemic and how that has just completely shot everyone's income sources. But what's really neat is during this season, my product income continues to come in every single month. And so if I could focus on one thing for you to start on here at the beginning, is to create products, is to create passive income sources, because that will get you to your goal so much faster and it'll be sustainable. So for some people, like that could be 6 months for you. It could be 3 months. I don't know. But for some, it might be 5 years. So let's dive deeper into that. What have you already tried?
Well, it's been tricky, especially this year, because I've been working on a lot of just setting up and getting married, and then everything COVID hit, and then I have an 8-year-old daughter too, and so I've been dealing with school and managing everything.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to just create a plan, and then at the same time I do just normal, regular album, solo kind of rock and roll stuff. And what I've been trying to do, I originally went to school. I went to school on and off over a lot of years, and that's a whole nother story. But I originally went for composing for film. That was the route I originally taken. And then just, life happened. And then I kind of went off on another route, and I've come back to the rock and roll stuff because that's something I'm good at. I understand. And so I've been trying to put stuff together in music video. Like I'm working on my first full production music video right now. But at the same time, the way I compose, my style is somewhere between like John Wick, Sin City, kind of like this rock and roll jazz sort of thing. So even though I write regular songs, I also try to compose some stuff like that. And I've been wanting to create like a composer pack, or like a package that I can submit to different libraries. And I've been looking at different libraries. I know you've mentioned a number of them, and I looked at some, and I think it definitely depends on your genre, like for different libraries. So I've been exploring those. I haven't uploaded anything to those, but I've been kind of trying to create my own portfolio, basically. So trying to go down the route that you've said, and I wanted to see it. And it's good. It's validating to hear that that's the way I should go. I just haven't been able to, up until now, because again, wedding stuff, to really create as much as I want to yet. But that's what I plan on doing this year, is just keep putting out more material and create specific genres depending on what it's for. Because I listened to a couple of, or I remember listening to one of your podcasts. It was really good. I think it was the Screen Soundtrack Academy? It was pick one thing. You just did that, I think, right? That was awesome. I love that. And you had talked about just, finding your niche, I think. And I know what my niche is. Like I'm not confused about that. So I just got to find a good place for it. And I can compose in kind of any style basically, but I'm trying to find the places that fit with that. And I want to just put out content, basically, put out songs and see what I can get sold, depending on where I'm selling it.
Yeah. I mean, if it's any encouragement for you, I'm not sure if you saw my Facebook post on Screen Music Academy yesterday, but I thought this was pretty cool. And I was amazed by the reaction from people in the group. I just posted a picture of my sales from one of the game music stores. It was the Unity Asset Store, and it was from last week, and it was like $800.
Right.
And people are like, "What? You can make that kind of money with game music?" I'm like, "I've been telling you this for like 2 years, people. Do I just need to like show you I don't know." I probably will do more posts like that, because people don't believe it till they see it. And then you really don't want to see my course numbers and book number, because it's like, it really does. It gets into the thousands really fast. And it just blows my mind why people don't make products. Like, I'm going to be on my soapbox here today, because I think we all have the same dream, right? We want to be composers. We want those custom projects, and they will come. I promise, they will always come. But what better way for them to come than for you to be able to say yes to them when they do come? And if you want to help create the pathway to those projects and to those, for games, for developers, they should already be people who have bought your music packs. And then 2 years down the road, you're the guy. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I remember this pack. It was so great." And especially if you're going to do rock music, which is, by the way, very underrepresented in game music. We have games like
Right.
Doom and Wolfenstein and people like Tom Salta who really do a
Yep.
great job with that. But like that's the first that comes to mind, and there's really not a lot. There's like maybe a handful of composers who really do great at that style versus the 500 RPG composers.
Right. Well, there's one that I really dig. It's really blues based. It's for Mafia 3,
Hmm.
and it sounds like something that straight up came like a couple of guys from Pink Floyd got together with some hard like bikers and got in a room in some bar and made a blues rock album. That's what it is,
That's
and
awesome.
it's one of my favorite things. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's stuff out there. Like, you have to, and I'm obsessive about soundtracks and listening to and finding different places for it. So yeah, if I like, that's what I wanted. And it's tricky though, because like I know you've very much, your soapbox lately has been, find a place like you said in the podcast, and I love it. You said, at least stick with something for 6 months, and that's what that podcast was about, and then go from there. And I'm a hardcore believer. I've worked with kids for years and stuff like that, and everything I preach, everything you're talking about is completely in alignment with that. But for me, the trick was just finding a place to start.
Mm.
And so I wasn't sure because I still want to make albums. Obviously, because that's also when I create that stuff and put out whatever it is, that's what I teach from when I work with kids, just to show them, okay, if you want to make a song, whatever, here's how to start. And, they have to see it, this, they have to see that you actually know what you're talking about. And the only way to see that and to show them is to see what you're doing. So I have to create that, but I also want to work and create my own courses specific for at-risk youth for doing music kind of stuff.
That's amazing. Love
so
that.
those things, well, it's tricky because I created kind of like my own 3-part thing. So I want to do, my albums to create content. Also, I'd love to be famous and all that, but I don't care about that. I care about making quality music.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I want to share that with people that I can teach how to do those sorts of things. But I also I want to compose because that's my other biggest passion. And I want to make music for whether it's games, TV, films, especially. That's really what I want to do overall. But when all those things break down, the reason why I wanted to ask you these questions, because I'm getting married. I have a daughter, I plan on expanding.
Yeah.
So I want to be at home. None of those things take precedent over my family life and my future wife and my daughter. So I need to be able to balance those. And that's where the steady income comes in. So I was just like, where do I really start? And, I bought your book. That was my favorite thing that you've put out, obviously, because that introduced me to, what you do. And it seemed like, the title itself is what, that you can be the family first composer, that you can be, you can put your family as a priority, and that's what I want to do. But I need a reliable way to do that. And if it's creating packs or whatever it is, just to start and then build out from there. Because I love the business side of it. I think most musicians probably aren't a fan.
Yeah.
And I love networking and I love doing all those things. And I have plenty of experience doing those in other areas, but I need to transfer into this, I guess. And so, yeah.
What is your number one financial goal right now? Because I have to ask that question to start the conversation because you have a lot of goals. And the good news is you can do all of those things, but you can't do them all at the same time. And so we have to start with the goal in mind, the financial goal, so that we can back up and we can make a decision. Okay, which one do we prioritize? So let's talk real numbers if you're willing to be vulnerable with that. I think that's important and that's helpful. So what's the most immediate goal?
I want to be able to, in the next year, 6 months to a year, I want to replace I have a good day job, and I like doing that kind of stuff. And I want to still be able to keep doing that, to supplement, but I want to replace all those hours with and the amount that I'm making each month or whatever it is. So if I can make $3 to $4 grand even a month just from composing or putting out music and content in the next year, that's my goal right now. That's my very specific goal. But how do I start there? Where do I go? You know what I mean? Like I love mapping stuff out. So I just need a point A, B, C, D, and E. How do I get there so that I can be home, so I can focus on family stuff, but still put out what I need to. And if I do album stuff, I look at the album stuff as almost more advertising. I love it. But nowadays, especially as an artist, unless you're a big name and you already have established,
Right.
yourself, like, so to me, this is the real bread and butter. So in a year, I want to be able to completely replace those hours. I don't even have to have a day job if I don't want to, I guess.
So basic math, 4,000 times 12, 48. So let's just say 50K is what we're really aiming for. I got a calculator out.
Cool.
I'm trying to just think of some basic numbers. So you're basically looking at about $1,000 per week. Have you watched the video or listened to the podcast or read the article called 10 Ways to Earn $1,000 per Month as a Composer? That's something I put out earlier this year. And if not, it's fine. Just curious if you're familiar with the 10 different ways that I list to make 1,000.
There was one, I feel like I have. I just watched another one and I'd seen it a couple of times, but there's one that you did where I think you talk about just the different ways that you compose for the different platforms, whether it's games, film, and TV. But I feel like I watched the 10 different ways, and I just I know I have. Like, I just don't remember it.
Well, I'm going to recommend go review that, because I think this is a really opportune time for you to help. That'll help you make some decisions. Because what I've done is I've broken down the 10 paths of least resistance. So they're the 10, I don't want to say easiest, because nothing's easy in life, but they're the 10 shortest ways to make that $1,000 benchmark. And so based on the numbers you mentioned, that's very doable. That is like literally a 10th of the opportunity that's in front of you. You just got to choose 10% of what you can do. So my suggestion to you is to look through that list of 10, and since you need $1,000 per week times 4, you need to choose 4 of those ways to make money. And of those 4, I would encourage you over the next 6 months, since we're going to break this down over the year, the first 6 months, I want you to go hardcore into those 4 and do nothing else. And then the second half of the year, the second 6 months, choose a different 4 or double down on the 4. It doesn't really matter. But the idea is you have to start building some momentum. So you don't have to pick those right this second, but for example, one of them is custom music. One of them is licensing. One of them is streaming your music. One is working for other composers as an assistant composer, which, by the way, that's what the Brian Schmidt talk is all about.
Right.
I just love how he so plainly lays it out. He's like, I hire composers all the time. I hire musicians. If you have this skill set, you are hireable. And I think we forget about that. We think we're always supposed to market to game developers and film directors and podcast creators, but no, you will make more money faster working with other musicians. As a composer myself, I pretty much am around the clock always hiring someone, but they're always musicians. And get this, even if I need admin tasks done, like uploading YouTube videos and editing podcast episodes, things that have nothing to do with music, I want to work with composers. So who do I go to? I find the composers in my phone or in my Facebook group, and those are the people I ask. Like today, I'm supposed to hire a viola player. Last week, I hired a cellist, sheet music, copyist, recording people. It's so many things that as a composer, as I kind of step up in my career, I don't have the time, energy, or resources to do it all myself. So I ask fellow composers. So I think that's a really big one that's misrepresented or underrepresented, that you could find work today doing that much faster, and you could get to that $1,000 range with 2 projects, 3 projects, very small things. So what I want you to start thinking about is, okay, what are 4 of these that I can go after right now over the next 6 months to really go hard after? And when it comes to things like licensing and streaming, and if you want to get into the royalty game of submitting music to marketplaces for TV, like Audio Jungle and Score, like there's a bunch of websites for that. I would encourage you to take the music you already have. Don't go out and write a bunch of new music. There's no point. Likely, if you've been at this for more than a year or 2, and you probably have, looking at that sheet music behind you on that piano, you're not new to music.
That's right. That's actually that's from the Jungle Book. That's my
nice.
fiance's piano music.
Nice.
She does great at that, though.
That's so funny. Um, use the music you already have. Chances are, and this
Yep.
is actually another video and episode that's coming out next week. Um, I'll link it right here. I've mentioned like 10 things I need to put
Yep.
in the future video, but I just talk about most composers have at least 100 tracks that are demo tracks or rejected tracks or unfinished ideas
Right.
that you could
Yep.
easily just edit into a minute loop or something and turn that into your game
Right.
music packs, into your streaming, into your licensing. And right there, you have about three, I'd say at least three, if not 5 or 6 income sources from one piece of music
Yeah.
that's sitting on your hard drive. So don't go create new things, repackage and resell the things you've already made.
My guy who's my producer, we've been talking about taking some of my already tracks I put out there and just turning them into stems and basically taking, because it is rock based, but he's like, half of that you could just throw around and stuff, or just take out the lyrics or take out the vocals and just put those in chunks.
Do you know where the most money is? The fastest money? Nah, not fastest, but the most money for rock music in particular, it really is stems, and it's for TV.
Is it?
If you watch
Right.
any reality TV, I think of HGTV in particular, or just really any reality, they're literally taking rock songs. They're only using about 5 seconds, but they're using
Right.
the stems. They get the bass, the drums, the guitar, and they take out all melody and all vocals. So you don't even need to make those. But if you have
Right.
like these little 30-second tracks or a minute tracks, if you
Yep.
upload to something like Premium Beat is a really good example, or Audio Jungle is also good. When you upload it, don't just put the track, put like 7 or 8 or 10 versions of that track. It'll sell so fast, and you can sell for $15.
So do it only like say for a minute. Like, what's the time frames that are best?
It's completely arbitrary. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because chances are people will only use 5 seconds of it anyway, or
Right.
30 seconds of it in the places that you actually want it to get placed to make the most. And they still have to pay the $200 license, $1,000 license, whatever. So it's up to you if you want to go exclusive with one marketplace or do non-exclusive and try to fish in 5 or 10 different markets. Just depends. When it comes to game music, it doesn't matter. They're all non-exclusive, which is why I love it so much. It breaks all the rules because this is where you have to know the nuances of royalties. In the game space, there are no royalties, but that's great because everything's non-exclusive, which means the rates are high and you can sell the exact same asset at Unity Store, in the itch.io, Game Dev Market, Unreal Marketplace. You can sell the exact same thing you made and duplicate it and make all the money.
Okay.
And you can stream that music and license it. It's crazy how much money there is in games, but film and TV, they have all these restrictions with licensing.
Right.
So they have to pay different tiers of licensing. So it's,
Yeah,
can't
and that's
do
where
both.
things get really convoluted. And I mean, it's tricky, and I get it. But then, you get all these sync licensing and all that kind of stuff. But what's interesting, like, I've stayed away because I really researched a lot of different libraries, and I know there's some libraries. I'm trying to remember one of them. There was at least 1 or 2 of them that they demand that you give up all your rights to your music, and I was like, nope.
Never.
I was like, no way. I don't care if you give me. I don't care if I made $300 off that one song. I'm not, because there's so many ways I could. And that, so it was tricky finding the right ones. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I looked at Audio Jungle, but I wasn't sure if my music would fit. But I'll look at it again. And then Premium Beat, I can't remember if I looked at that one or not. But yeah, so if that's the way to go, then yeah, that's the first place I'll start. And I like the idea of starting with 4 things to focus on, and then maybe switching after 6 months, or whatever it is, to 4 other things. But you're still focusing. And it's the one thing I wasn't sure about, because I do have this kind of broader range of kind of what I do, and I do have a real passion for film, especially. So I eventually want to move there. But like you said in a number of videos, that's not something you just jump into. You got to know the people. And how do you get to know the people? It's by starting here and, starting to network, yada, yada, yada. But that is my larger goal, but I know I have to start small and work my way big eventually. And
Well, what you need right now is sustainable. You need sustainable income. Right? You need something. You need to know that every single month, collectively, all your income sources passively that have nothing to do with the custom gigs, they need to equal that $4,000 mark every single month.
Yep.
So until you
Yep.
get to that point, which could happen by next month, but it could also take 6 months, it could take a year. I don't know.
Right.
Depends on how much time and
Right.
effort you're going to spend into diversifying. So I'm not,
Right.
I just want to encourage you, go watch that video, look at that, that article,
Yep.
the 10 ways to make $1,000, because at the end of the video, I also go through several of my budgets. Something I've been doing since the beginning of my career is I've been tracking how much I make in every single income source. And my old budgets sucked and they were terrible, but over time I got much better at it. Because I track my business expenses, I track how much I make from each category. And it's very fascinating. It's not anything that I thought it would be, because in my mind, I thought, oh, I'm going to make this game music pack and it's going to make me money every single month. Not true.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to create these courses, it's going to make me money every single month. Not true. Instead, what I have are a bunch of black holes. And I'll talk about that in the video where you look at my budget and there's, I think like right now, here we are in September 2020, and I have about 25 income sources for this month, but about 10 of them are black, which means zero money from that income source. So for example, BMI, that's the royalties for film TV. They only pay every 3 months anyway. So of course it's going to be black for 2 months, right? There's things like that. There are most websites you have to earn a certain threshold, like $25, $50, $100 before you can withdraw. So sometimes it's below the threshold. I do a lot of affiliate marketing where I share sample instruments and music software through different YouTube reviews, etc. And for those, same thing. Some months it's zero. Some months it's $1,000. It's crazy. And what happens is the items that are black become full the next month, and then they become black the next one. So it's like if you were to zero out any one category, one basket, so to speak, it just fluctuates on and off throughout the year.
Right.
But what's happening is when you have 10 of these and 15 and 25 of these, it's doing that number, and the total number, the average, is increasing steadily over time. So it's way more than it used to be. And that's what diversification is all about, because you just never know how anything's going to perform. And as soon as you put your hope into that one thing performing well, you're screwed, because you're not diversifying. And that's why I'm saying to choose four things that are very different, and go do them all at the same time. Track your progress, give it 6 months, because by the end of 6 months, you will know if it has been performing well or not. Like if it's black for 6 months in a row, either kill it or revise it.
Okay. That makes
and that's
sense.
how you know. That's how you know that was a great idea or a terrible idea. Let's move on.
Right. Yeah. And I remember you talking about that more, so like, just don't be afraid to try something, but stick with it for a while. And then, if it doesn't work, then, you did what you did, and then move on. And, and I'm not one to dwell on my musical adventure mistakes. I just want to go to the next thing to figure out what works. And if it works, then I'll stick with it. I think the trick for me was just figuring out a place to start, but that makes sense, because if you got these various black holes, well, the other ones that are making money are going to cover those up or whatever it is. It's like kind of like advanced Tetris in a way. I don't know.
And you'll find that the 4,000 number, it'll come pretty soon as you continue to put more things out there.
Well, for me, I think you had said the big thing that I got out of the book, and other things you've said, is just how do you, as far as time management, for me, the trick is right now, because I think I mentioned this, I'm going back and forth between North Dakota and Texas for at least a while, and probably about every other week. That's kind of what I'm doing. So I need to figure out a way to really, it's a little nutty right now, but that's just the reality of it. And so that's another reason why I need to become musically or independent of being in one location, I guess, per se. And so in order to do that, I think the products aspect really helps. The focus on that helps with one aspect, but then the other part is the time management. Because I remember you saying, like, how much time do you actually spend composing versus family, and how do you balance between those two things? I guess that's my biggest question, because I want to emphasize my family, but I want to make money to support my family. You know what I mean?
I believe in schedule. I think that's how you grow anything. And it's how you protect your family, and it's how you protect your time and all that. So what that means is every season that your life kind of goes through a change. Like right now, COVID season is still going on. So my family has a different schedule than it will once this is all over.
Right.
Just like school season, when everything's kind of more normal, will be a very different season. Or if a job changes, or you move, or you get married, right? There's a lot of life happens, and you can't project one schedule for the rest of your life, but you can make a schedule for this season. So in this season, I would have a discussion with your soon-to-be wife and talk about, okay, here are my work hours. And it's going to change every single season of your life, but here are my work hours, Monday through Friday. And for me, I protect Saturday and Sunday. That is family time. I protect the morning time because that's time with kids, and I never work past 4:35. And so I have those nights with my family, with my wife, and it's protected. I don't take phone calls, I don't do emails, I don't do social media, whatever. It's like I have my protected time. Now for me, because it changes every season. Right now, I actually strangely get to work way more than I did last season, which is really cool because I'm doing a lot of projects and it allows me to fill that time. But I'm setting aside probably 5 hours Monday through Friday. And so that's about 25-hour week, which is great. That's about my comfort level anyway. I don't like working much past that. I get tired and groggy and it's no fun. But it also opens up enough in my schedule that I can reschedule stuff and that kind of thing. But for me, every Sunday night, I plan with my wife the following week. We set it in stone. And then if we have to be flexible, we move stuff around. But it pretty much stays 90% of what we made. And you just stick to it. And with that in mind, part of productivity is planning ahead. So what I do is on that Sunday when I'm looking ahead at the week, believe me, I've talked about this before, but I have literally stacks of sticky notes over here, always by my side. And I write down ideas that I want to do, but I don't have time for yet. And I don't even have all the details of how I'm going to do it. I have stacks of sheets, whatever. That way, if I ever find this moment of what am I going to do today? No, I grab it and I go.
Right.
Because you never want to be in that position of what do I do today? Because you've already wasted all of your time.
Right.
And that's how I do it. And I just stick to it. And I'm not perfect at it. And I make mistakes. I have sick days, whatever. Life happens. But I think when you can always have priorities in your life, you're going to win. Because over time, the average of all of those work days is going to equal putting stuff out. And to me, that's the thrill of the chase. I just love making stuff. And I love that I have a sticky note over here about a viola sample instrument that I'm going to make. Am I going to do it today? Nope. Right? And over here, I have an entire course outline on a sticky note. I have a list of products I'm going to do for Screen Music Academy. I have new sample instruments. I have like whatever. It's like stuff that I know I want to make, but I'm like, that's not the priority today. Nope. Because I have a recording session tomorrow. I have this chat with you. I have a live composing show. And what happens is it's so easy to put stuff off. But for me, by having it right there at my fingertips, when those moments happen where I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, I have 2 hours on the schedule right now. What am I going to do today? I'm not going to jump on social media. I'm not checking my emails. No, let's do something. And I make sure to write down things that are going to make me money. That's what a business is. It's not, let me go chase some wild goose. No, it's, let me go make a sample instrument that will make money. And I want to make sure that I invest less than I'm going to make. Right? Let's build a course that is low cost. Let's, I don't know. let me go license some music. So I just, I like having that flexibility in my life where some people would say, write down everything you're going to do at every single time throughout the week. But that kind of crushes my creativity as an artist. I like the ability to sit down. And even this morning, I got a sponsorship deal for a new sample instrument. It's a lot of what I do, and that's a huge income generator if you can get into that. If you want to create your own YouTube show, highly recommend it. That's a large portion of income. And so people just like literally contact me and say, hey, here's the instrument. You want to review this, blah, blah, blah. And then, so that was unexpected, but I literally spent an hour that I hadn't planned for today to do that instead of building my sticky note thing. And that's okay, because I like the spur of the moment nature of being a business owner. Isn't that why I did this in the first place? I'm my own boss. I don't need to be slave to my own to-do list, right? So I just think that's kind of the coolest thing. That's the coolest thing in the world to me. And I hope that you want that too. And it's super possible, and you're going to get there, but you got to start. So instead of
Yep.
don't, I hate to say don't plan, because you should plan, but
Yeah.
the things we're talking about today about putting out some products, they're right there in front of you. Just go put something out.
Cool.
It doesn't have to be
Yep.
perfect. You can always improve it. You can always update it and
Yep.
revise it, but having something is going to allow you to start making some money that you can reinvest and build your business.
That's cool. Yeah, no, that answers a lot of, and I love, I always joke that I live my life in a series of colorful blocks on my calendar, on my iPhone.
Yeah.
And that falls in line with that. I just need to allocate those specific hours.
Yep.
And then, like you said, leave my family time. It's sacred. There's nothing else that can interrupt it. Turn off the phone, all that jazz. So yeah, no, that helps at least. It's like, I think I knew some of this stuff, but you help validate it and make sure that I feel like I'm on the right track. I just need to get certain things done. So that's really
Yeah.
helpful. And I like I hadn't thought about doing the 4 things, starting there for 6 months and then doing, switching, see what works and what doesn't, and then keep going and then build from there. But that seems like a good place to start among other things that you'd said. So
Yeah.
awesome. So thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you
Yeah, man.
for answering my questions for me.
So I appreciate you and your time,
no.
and I'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Have a good one.